We express grief at the untimely and devastating deaths of young students and young women due to heinous crimes of rape and murder. Would like to remember Sinethemba Ndlovu, Uyinene Mkhetjwana, Jessie Hess, and many girls and young women whose names we know and those whose names have not been mentioned in the context of gender-based violence at universities and at our TVET colleges. And I'd really like to thank you for participating here in today's dialogue on gender-based violence, and I appreciate you giving me an opportunity to engage with you as part of this discussion. And I also know that we wish for the same things. We want our youth to be safe, because they came to our universities and to our colleges to graduate and not to die or to be raped or to be objectified, and for many other things that happens in our institutions which are not what students have come here for. For our economy to take off and rejuvenate families and communities with thousands of new jobs. We wish to witness decent housing, clean toilets in every one of our institutions, access to water and other essential services. And we also wish to see our country positively transformed with all young people having access to equal opportunities. So I really want to thank everyone who was involved in arranging this engagement, this dialogue. And I'm heartened by the close collaboration between your institution and others in the region, together with Higher Health. Until recently known by the name Higher Education AIDS, the center leads our departmental and sectoral activities for healthier, safer, and more competent graduates. On behalf of the department, Higher Health works with all 26 public universities and 50 TVET colleges in partnership with the University of South Africa, South African College Principals Organization, the South African Union of Students, government departments, and civil society organizations to provide health and wellness programs and services to students. To match the name change, its focus and mandate have been broadened and now encompasses gender-based violence and issues of mental health. And as a snapshot of society, universities and colleges experience all that happens in our families, in our villages, and also in our towns. At the heart of our role as educators, as guardians, and as mentors is to equip young people with the knowledge, skills, and resources to understand the roots of violence, teenage pregnancy, depression, unsafe or unprotected sex, and through the peer-led initiatives and other interventions, assist them to change the negative narratives and overcome these challenges. Gender-based violence is the main point on today's agenda. It is a complicated challenge for individuals involved and also for our sector and for the country. A few telling figures to share with you. In 2012, the Medical Research Council research indicated that 10% of reported gender-based violence cases are from higher education, but also that only 1 in 9 survivors report the violence to the police. And in our discussion with the Minister, we've agreed that we should work with the Human Science Research Council to ensure that we follow the numbers as is happening in our institutions, so that we do not have a situation wherein the state around gender-based violence in our institution is underreported. 1 in 3 of our girls are raped before their 21st birthday. 150 South African girls and young women are raped daily. Where a student or member of staff is subjected to gender-based violence, the perpetrator may be a student or staff member of the institution or an outsider. The act may occur on campus or off campus. It may have taken place recently or at some point in the past. And I think I'm quite sad, even angry, at the fact that just today I was told there was yet another case of reported attempted rape on campus. I think it was at your Westville campus. Furthermore, gender-based violence spans a wide range of harmful acts, from sexual harassment and psychological abuse to criminal acts such as rape, sexual assault, and common assault. And although women and girls are most frequently the targets of gender-based violence, LGBTQI individuals are also targeted, while men are not invulnerable either. And I must emphasize that all these rapes that happens, all this killing of young women and girls that happens on our campuses are not committed by aliens from Mars, but are committed by men on our campuses. And I think it would be ridiculous for us to try and downplay the fact that these are acts that are committed by us. And when I say us, you may not individually be committing rape, murder, and so forth. But collectively, we must take responsibility as men, and we must take action, because it is our gender privilege that puts us in that position. It is the patriarchy in society that gives us that privilege collectively as men, which leads us to this sense of entitlement, of using violence as a way to resolve issues, and all the other things that I believe we need to be engaged with. In fact, any man who wants to speak out against #men are trash, or that men collectively are responsible precisely because of the actions of individuals, anyone who wants to speak out against those is as equal to those people who under apartheid were saying, as a white person, I am not responsible for the apartheid system, and yet they continue to derive the benefits from that particular system. We must all rise and act against gender-based violence. All of this takes a terrible toll on the individual who has been violated, affecting their physical and psychological health, their self-perception, and the will to continue to study or to work. It takes back the progress within families, demands funds for judicial services and healthcare services. It also demands courage to confront, and I want to really pause and acknowledge and salute the survivors of sexual and gender-based violence who are here amongst us today, and who some may want to share their stories, or some may want to actively be involved in the discussions. We realize that words cannot wipe out the injustice and the trauma. I'm grateful for your presence in this meeting and trust that our combined voices can transform the painful experiences into solutions. Because we need to find the right ways to respond in a humane manner to the cries of those who have been violated, and to ensure that the rate of gender-based violence has only one way to go, which is to go down. We need 0 gender-based violence cases in our campuses. For this to happen, we must first size up the issue and obtain correct information about the numbers and locations where the incidents happen the most, so this can underpin specific resources and strategies. And we must say to universities that it does not help for us to hide the numbers and the statistics. In fact, the more we know the extent of the problem, the better equipped we are to deal with the problem. And so any institution that wants to hide this information because they want to protect the integrity of the institution are actually putting young women and girls even in much more danger, because we would not know and understand the extent of the problem. Now, the other point which was of my concern, and I really want to use this opportunity to call on our media, but also some of us who are active in social media platforms, because it seems that certain institutions when there are crimes committed against young girls and women, that those institutions are given specific preference. And I want to make an example about what happened at the University of Cape Town, where we went as government to also go and pay our respect to the students there and the family of Uyinene. Now, the media stormed at the University of Cape Town to report on the matter. It was daily on the agenda of many of the newspapers and in the newsrooms. Right across the University of Cape Town is the University of Western Cape, where another young lady lost her life, Hess, and nothing was reported about her. And it shows the extent of the privilege and that those who own media institutions will want to control the narrative. And what was more unfortunate was as though there has never been any incident of gender-based violence before the Uyinene case. And may her soul rest in peace. And as government, we did as much as we can to ensure that we attend to both families. The media, social media platforms also have an important role to ensure that we report the worst of cases, particularly those which happened in our historically black institutions. And I'm using that categorization just so that I emphasize the point. And therefore, there must not be any suggestion that lives of certain individuals, because they study at a particular institution, matters more than those of the rest of our university and college students. And I think that emphasis is going to be crucial. We really want to challenge the media to help us to ensure that we constructively engage with cases of gender-based violence without giving privilege to certain institutions over others. Further to the formal release of the draft gender-based violence policy and strategy framework for public comment in May, Higher Health, which facilitated the creation of the framework, has worked with universities and colleges in order to streamline the reporting of gender-based violence in a much more structured and formal way. This is coupled with intense liaison between Higher Health and the institutions so that we build momentum for action. I'm happy to report that since 2018, many universities have started reporting on gender-based violence incidences that occur within and off campus, on and off campuses. And TVETs have also started to follow suit. Provisions are now being developed to establish a comprehensive reporting program across all institutions. It is also acknowledged that we have to deal with the underlying structural challenges such as poverty and unequal gender dynamics which fuel gender-based violence and HIV infections. These are caught in a web of social and cultural belief and personal identity issues that challenge prevention and impact on efforts to assist those affected. We must out those who use the church or religion in order to perpetrate gender-based violence. We must out those who use traditional and cultural institutions and practices to perpetuate gender-based violence. We as a generation cannot stand by and watch these important institutions being abused for purposes of perpetuating personal entitlements. We must say no to those who wear the gown and preach the name of the Lord, or those who wear the crown and have authority over communities by using these institutions for self-entitlement and for perpetuating barbaric and archaic gender-based violence. It must be us who speak out against those if we want to see them coming to an end. And I think we all know what I'm talking about. The status of women, gender relations, and stigma are significant elements of this maze of ideas and emotions. And grossly unequal socioeconomic circumstances experienced between women and men, which is why the response to gender-based violence needs to be multi-sectoral so that we can all contribute in the most appropriate way for us and to the best of our ability. I want to take a little time to go over other aspects of the gender-based violence and integrated student health, wellness, and development activities that through higher health we are bringing to the doorstep of our student. Gender-based violence reporting mechanism, as I mentioned above, is part of the institutional level policy development and implementation strategy. I call on all of you to give us your time when we engage you in workshops and in meetings so that we're able to finalize all of this very important strategy. Capacity development of staff at every campus, including those involved in direct and indirect support to survivors of gender-based violence. Our institutions need to be equipped to be able to deal with gender-based violence cases. From students being able to report these cases, be it lecturers who demand sex for marks, be it student leadership who demand sex in exchange for residences or tickets to Freshers' Ball festivals, all of those things that institutions need to put in place, all of these things, so that victims of gender-based violence should not feel as though they've got nowhere to go, and that this information needs to be availed to all of them. Development of call center and other technology-based applications to enable rapid response, and one such is in the final phases of development with support from the United Nations Women, intensifying response to gender-based violence through the second curriculum, which is Higher Health's peer-to-peer program. And we're using direct student-to-student contact to strengthen learning and development outside of formal academic studies. The formal or first curriculum, where we've infused content and best practice on gender-based violence and comprehensive student priorities into the formal academic program. And at TVET colleges, the life orientation curriculum takes priority, while various compatible courses at universities have been identified and academics design health-related content. Higher Health Future Bits, campus and community radio and social media programs, wherein they work with 13 radio stations to deliver radio-centered health promotion and social awareness on gender-based violence and other issues of concern to students. Psychosocial support services given students easy access to campus-based clinical settings which assist in the prevention, early intervention, and ongoing management of gender-based violence, pregnancy, and all other health and wellness-related matters. In addition, the popular and impactful First Things First program continues to mobilize participation in health activities where students encourage one another to participate in awareness campaigns and mass health screening. Now, this is very crucial because in many instances we ask, what is it that government is doing in order to deal with gender-based violence? And that's an important question. But I think even more important is that this is a societal problem. There's a case in Port Elizabeth now, which involves a pastor who is alleged to have raped young women and girls in his congregation. And what I found fascinating is government has done its work. The cases were reported. The alleged rapist was arrested. He is being prosecuted now. I think it's Pastor Omotoso or something like that. Yes. He's been prosecuted. Some of the young women have become brave enough to go to court and testify. Now, what I found very intriguing, and yes, it is important that everyone is presumed innocent until the court shows otherwise. But what I found intriguing is that members of the community and some in the congregation are caught up in two factions, some supporting the alleged rapist and others supporting the victims. Now, there's nothing that government can do in discouraging people from from discouraging a certain section in the community to say to them, but you cannot do that. And it is these kind of incidents, which we see throughout, where communities go up in arms in protecting some of these practices, in protecting individuals who have been accused of such acts, that we essentially are reinforcing the entitlement of some of these individuals. And I think it's important that in as much as we ask what is it that government is doing, we also need to ask ourselves, what is it that I am doing? And I really want to applaud those students who are part of the First Things First, who are involved in the mobilization of all students in all of our campuses to be the agents of change as it relates to the question of gender-based violence. Because government may be able to do certain things, but government alone will not win in the battle against gender-based violence. We know who the perpetrators are. We know who are some of these people on our campuses. And when I say that, I do not mean that we should take the law into our hands. I do not mean that we should resort to violence in resolving violent situations. There are institutions that are in place that are intended to help us to resolve some of these cases. But I really want to encourage you to become agents in our war and our fight against gender-based violence. And in essence, to deal effectively with gender-based violence in our sector, we need a renewed emphasis on tertiary education as an investment in the social development of our people. Our department and higher health, in efforts to tackle HIV comprehensively, offer students opportunities for socially responsible growth. The approach strives to influence campus culture in relation to women's rights, attitude towards LGBTI plus students and staff, concepts of masculinity, the stigma attached to HIV and TB, and use of alcohol and other substances. Today's assembly is a special occasion because it contributes to this strategy and to the building of empowerment programs for young women and men. And even more special to me, because most of the sessions of this nature that we've had have mainly been in TVET colleges. I think this is the second time that we're having such an event in a university. So it's really special to me, and I think we are going to continue with more of this kind of engagements at both our TVET colleges and at our universities. We bank on the power of our combined energies and positive peer influence to shift student perceptions and develop their motivation to protect their health. This work paves the way for universities and colleges to take on board approaches to preventing gender-based violence. But gender-based violence demands a comprehensive response, and attending to complaints will demand additional dedicated measures at universities and at colleges. So I'd really like to ask you, our students and student leaders, to become agents of changes in our families and in our communities. It is the youth of this country which were at the forefront of bringing about democracy, and it is going to be the youth of this country who are going to bring an end to gender-based violence. You have education and services right here on campus. It helps students to be empowered with the knowledge and means to protect themselves and make decisions regarding sex, relationships, what to consume in terms of alcohol and substances, where to seek help, and so on and so forth. But as an agent priority, I'd also like to add my voice to the challenge to all South African men, including all of us in the higher education sector, to speak up. Please, let's report men who are suspected to have committed crime and violence against women. In UKZN, who's Schumann? When a woman says no, it's Schumann, nah? Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So those who, when a woman says no, they believe that that no can progressively, with time, become a yes. Those ones, we must expose them. And this includes sex for marks, as I said earlier, and sexual harassment, as it is a gateway to more violent incidents and the underbelly of gender-based violence, to demand accountability from university and college leadership, and to help instill respect and positive values and emotion in a new generation of boys and young men. In closing, On behalf of our department and government, we really thank the university and everyone here for your invaluable cooperation and joining us in efforts to come closer to our goal of a healthy, safe, and prosperous nation. Thank you very much for listening. Madam Speaker.